Are we live yet?
We are live. Hi everyone, this is Patrick Palucci with Slooh Space Camera. We're here tonight to track Asteroid 2002 AM31 live. We're going to be doing this out of our Canary Islands Observatory for show number 1, and we're looking forward to this. These are always fun to do. This particular asteroid is actually pretty close to us, and only about 30 plus days ago, another asteroid in similar size and distance came whizzing by Earth, and that one we didn't know anything about. So that was a pretty fascinating show at the time. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at live images coming in from our observatory out in the Canary Islands, which is off the coast of Africa. Right now we're experiencing a phenomenon called La Calima, and that is basically the Sahara Desert is blowing wind offshore towards the island, the Canary Islands, and that kicks up a lot of fine mist and dust. Typically, we keep the facilities closed during such things when this stuff happens, but tonight we're going to open up one of them, what we call our T2 telescope, to track the asteroid. So with us tonight, I have a longtime Slooh editor, astronomy magazine columnist, and writer of the book The Sun's Heartbeat, which is actually in paperback, I guess now, Bob. Is that right?
It is. Just came out this week in paperback.
Excellent. Well, Bob's been with us now 5+ years, and if everyone hasn't read his books, you should definitely do it. I always promote The Sun's Heartbeat because it's the one I've read recently, and I really enjoyed it. With us tonight also, we have Matt Francis from Prescott Observatory in Arizona. Bob's actually in New York, just by the way. I'm in Los Angeles. Matt is in Arizona, and we have Paul Cox with us as well, and he's in the UK. So we're all over the world right now. Matt's going to be attempting to cover the asteroid in a second show, although the weather out there right now is really bad. So we're not sure we're going to be able to get his feed on the second show, but we should have one at least coming out of Canary Islands. And Paul right now is working on tracking the asteroid as we speak. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How are things looking for us?
Yep, it's cleared again. So we just while I was testing before the show, it clouded over a little bit, but yeah, back online and should start images coming through any minute now.
I see one right now. There was one right there on the screen.
Yep,
yeah,
that's one of the first test ones I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, we're showing it on the Hangout right now. For those of you who are on the Slooh.com homepage, you'll be able to snap your own pics by just clicking the Pin It button, assuming you have a Pinterest account, of course. But it's an easy way for you to grab images from our live shows. And we do these live shows frequently. In fact, we've got more already counting down now. So you can come at our homepage at any time and see the latest event that's counting down. We obviously have a second asteroid show tonight, and then we have other shows upcoming in the week. We do have I think it's the Mars Saturn Spike a Star event Tuesday afternoon. We're going to be doing that one. So Bob, while we're getting here waiting for the countdown, you could see probably in the Hangout what we're doing right now. Maybe you could talk, you know what, when we started talking about these asteroids and we did this show about 30+ days ago, we know there's about 9,000 plus of these things whizzing around space. What is it? Where are these things coming from? I always wondered where are these asteroids coming from?
Well, they live here, just like here. I'm no secret. I'm here in the mountains in upstate New York, and we're surrounded by bears and deer, and they do damage. And it's their home. We can't blame them. This is where they live, and it's the same thing with the asteroids. They clobber us from time to time. They come in, but this is their home. They mostly live between Mars and Jupiter. But there are some renegade asteroids that we call near-Earth objects that come in much closer than that can whiz past us, like the one tonight. Or there are some that can do worse than that, and we'll be talking about that later on. The asteroids that have changed history, changed the biosphere, and really made Earth the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild because how do we go about documenting these things that are whizzing around the Earth? And, I think it was a little worrisome about 45 days that one that we weren't expecting came zipping in. Fortunately, it was still 13 moon distances away, but it's still relatively close, and it was a pretty big asteroid. So how do we go about even tracking these things?
Well, that has improved, of course, over the years, and now there are dedicated facilities that do nothing but that. And one of them, operated by MIT, and supported by the military, the U.S. Air Force, is constantly looking for near-Earth objects. The ones that really get to us come out of the sun. We can't see them because they're coming from the wrong direction. But asteroids like this one are easier to spot. This one's large enough. We're talking about a few city blocks. In fact, it might be, we're not even quite sure of its full size. It might be almost a mile wide, in which case it's fully large enough to do the same kind of damage we had 65 million years ago when the dinosaurs were destroyed, when an asteroid smaller than this one came in and landed on their favorite Yucatan beach in Chicxulub. There's still a crater there, mostly under the sea, that was caused by that one. So we're not fooling around. These are serious things. We've been clobbered before, has happened before, will happen again, and but now we're able to track them better. We can't do anything about it. If this one happened to have a trajectory that was going to hit us, which, by the way, a number of paranoid people think. They think the government is covering it up and we're actually going to be hit by that. Well, here at Slooh, we're here to show you that it's going to miss us because we are showing you live images while the asteroid zooms past safely, this time safely.
Yeah, in fact, if you're on the homepage of Slooh.com, you're seeing the asteroid right now. You're seeing star trails. And maybe, Paul, you could explain to us what's going on. And in the center there, that's the asteroid. You're actually seeing this asteroid live. It's traveling. I'm looking at the sheet that was provided by JPL. NASA JPL. It's at, I figured it was about, if my math's right, it's 9.5 kilometers per second. Is that right?
That's right. That's about 6 miles a second. Now, a high-speed bullet goes half mile a second. So we're talking about an object that's going a dozen times faster than a rifle bullet.
Yeah, and in fact, if you think about this, and I was earlier today, here's Paul. This object is over 3 million miles away. He's imaging this thing. It's traveling at 6 miles per second. Paul, that's pretty amazing stuff that you're able to do right now. You're doing it from the UK.
Yeah, I was thinking about this only this afternoon, and I was thinking about this distance, and I was reading up actually that we're not the only people obviously observing this tonight. And I was just kind of sitting here thinking what I was going to be doing tonight. I'm sitting in the UK. I'm controlling our telescopes in the Canary Islands, the same telescopes that Slooh members usually get to use, and we're actually tracking this thing. And it is amazing. But I said we're not the only people who are observing this tonight. We've got two major facilities. Maybe Bob can talk about them in a sec. The Arecibo Radio Observatory and I think it's called the Goldstone Observatory. Now those are radio telescopes, and those actually are the best kind of telescopes to make any kind of observation of these near-Earth objects. Bob was saying then, a little bit uncertain about how big this thing is, but actually it's radar, radio telescopes that actually establish how big they are, the shape they are, and a lot of other information about them.
Yes, it really only started in the 1960s that we could use radar for celestial distances, where the actual true distance to Venus, Mars, and then even Mercury was established by radar. So this is nothing. This asteroid is 1/10 the distance of the closest planet, Venus. So that's closer than any planet can ever come, and an easy target for radar. So we'll even establish its rotation, its exact size. We know that it's someplace between about 500 yards across. I mean, just think about that, 5 football fields at minimum, and it may be as large as almost a mile across. So this is a heavy-duty object, passing 10 times closer than the nearest planet. It's doing it tonight. And our job is to show you that we're ducking this one. We're escaping from this one. But we've got to keep watching them.
And just to say, what we're actually seeing in these images, you'll see the sky background obviously is black. The stack of lines, the diagonal lines that everybody's seeing, those are stars, because this asteroid is actually moving against the background of stars. So what I'm doing is I'm tracking the telescope. I've locked the telescope onto the actual asteroid. So during a long exposure, these are 60-second exposures, the stars in the background appear to move across the image. So the actual asteroid is that lovely white dot, right, hopefully right in the center of our images.
Right. No, it's looking good, Paul. I mean, this is, you know, the last one we did about 45 days ago was also really great. I mean, they were nice and clear. You could see the asteroid itself. I mean, you got to think a bit about this. Again, this thing's moving. It's 6 miles per second, and it's 3 million plus miles away from Earth. So that's pretty amazing when you think about it, that we're able to image this thing live.
That's right. And the live is the cool thing, because obviously we could create at Slooh a time-lapse sequence and show it moving against the background stars, and I'm sure Paul will do that. But that would be based on images slightly in the past. Instead, because Slooh is famous for showing you what's happening now, or certainly within the last minute, that's what's so cool. We are actually seeing it as it happens here, and one of the great reasons that Slooh is as cool as it is.
And one thing I want to point out to you, if you're on the Slooh.com homepage, we will monitor the Slooh conversation section. So if you have a question you'd like to ask Bob or Paul or myself for that matter, or even Matt, feel free to post it in there, and we'll try to monitor it and reply with the broadcast. So that's on the Slooh.com site that we're doing this. You may also be watching this on the YouTube channel or on G+, and we're trying to provide you a live feed in there as well. But you can also go to Slooh.com and actually snap pics from the pin it button. So it's great.
Yeah, can I make a couple of comments here?
Yeah,
Pat?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just with Paul, and he mentioned tracking this object, and I just kind of wanted to give people a bit of an idea of how difficult this can be. You just don't slew your telescope to it and hope for the best. You have to go to the, at least I'm assuming Paul does it the same way I do, where you go to the Minor Planetary Center website and download. You have to navigate through that website, navigate to the correct database for the near-Earth objects, download the orbital elements, make a text file, upload that into your planetarium, mount pointing software, choose the right object, then you've got to set your slew rate, and then slew to the object, and then pretty much hope that everything is working correctly. It's very complicated, and it's amazing when you get an object like this right in the center of field like Paul has, that's perfectly focused, perfectly centered, with a star field that's streaked around it is not easy to do. And one other thing about, you know, you guys mentioned about I just want to comfort some paranoid people out there. A cover-up. There not only is Paul tracking this, and also Goldstone and Arecibo, like he mentioned, and who knows how many other amateur astronomers are tracking this. It would be impossible to cover this up. Impossible. So, you know, how you would even go about that is just crazy.
The people who discovered this telescope are the Linear program. Maybe Bob will talk about them in a sec. But, you know, some of these conspiracy theories kind of build up from these tiny little pieces of information. And the Linear program, who actually search for these things, is actually born out of military surveillance equipment. And it was thrown over to this MIT organization, and they're now using it for near-Earth objects. So I think it's quite easy to see why people start stringing together the conspiracy theories on these things.
Oh yes, of course. Once you talk about the military being involved in it, people are going to say, "Oh yeah, right," and we're really supposed to trust that they would tell us if Earth were about to end. But in fact, they would.
I think they would. Yeah. It's a bit like the moon conspiracies. There are so many, as Matt just said, you know, there are so many people seeing these things now that it's impossible to cover up. And, you know, it's people using Slooh's telescopes can spot one of these things. The last, what was it? The last one of the asteroids we covered, or I think it would have been visible for something like 10 years or something. if it had been covered up. So sorry, I'm trying to concentrate on too many things.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Speaking of the moon, I'd like to just tell you guys just for a second. I had one of the best nights of my life last night. I got to meet Neil Armstrong.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, the Lowell Observatory. Actually, I'm a part of that, and I'm doing a partnership with them on some things. But anyway, they had their celebration for the Discovery Channel telescope first light. So this is a 4-meter telescope that they've built with the help of Discovery Channel, and Neil Armstrong was there, and we got to meet him, and he gave a presentation, a step-by-step narration of the moon landing of Apollo 11 and placing the mirror so the lasers could reflect off that and measure the distance from Earth to the moon to within, well, he said to within an inch, they know now.
That's right. That's right.
It's amazing.
That's
It's
wild,
within an
man.
inch. And it's rare too, because whereas Buzz Aldrin is an extrovert and loves to talk and will attend any any place he's invited just about. He's a great guy too. It's rare to get Neil Armstrong. He's much more of an introvert and shuns publicity usually. So that's great. I'm going to run and get a piece of an asteroid so I can show it to the camera. I'll be right back.
Great.
So I want to show everybody what it would look like if we could see this thing, a piece of it up close. I'll be right back. Carry on.
Yeah, and when before Bob returns, I just want to say, please consider membership on Slooh. It does fund free programming. We're actually having a special offer tonight. If you do sign up for a yearly or 2-year membership, you get a free Meade telescope. We've had this offer in the past. It was very popular, and I only bring it back every so often. In fact, the first lot of telescopes just shipped out last week for a bunch of people who signed up during our transit event. And Paul actually is going to be producing a live show on how to use the telescope. So he's going to be doing that, I believe, on Saturdays to Target once the first grouping has got their scopes. And even if you miss that show, it'll be in recorded mode, so it'll always be available for you to see it. It's actually a pretty good scope. Paul actually did a demonstration that's on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see it. And Paul gave a 10-15-minute production on it, live from at the time it was live from the Canary Islands. And he was impressed with the scope itself. So please consider it. It does help fund the programming. Plus, in addition to that, you get access to these observatories that we own and operate, where you control them, go on your own missions, and you can go see Jupiter, Saturn, any of these objects that are in the night sky, any of the messy objects, any deep sky stuff. We have a very passionate membership base worldwide. So please do consider it by clicking that link at the top right. Bob, just really quick, are you back? I wasn't looking.
Yes, I'm back
Okay.
here. Got a piece of an asteroid. Oh, we're going to mention the sun's heartbeat. Is this the time for that?
Let's see. You
I was
want
wondering how
to?
that smells.
What's that?
I was wondering how that book smells.
Oh, that book smells.
Bob. Are those in paperback, Bob? What are those?
The Sun's Heartbeat just came out in paperback, and Wall Street Journal and a number of other big publications have done rave reviews. So we're very excited about it. Little Brown is the publisher, and all sorts of exciting things, like how the sun can kill you, and how the sun's vitamin D can prevent cancer, and global warming, a million things like that. But I've come back with a piece of an asteroid right now, and I've noticed that in another facility where I am right now, there is somebody watching Slooh on the Slooh.com and seeing the asteroid that we are presenting live. And this person asked me, how can we see the people who are talking, Pat, Matt, Paul, Bob, how can they see images of this asteroid that I'm holding up right now? And Pat, how would one make a transition from Slooh.com, where you're seeing the asteroid live, to, is there not another website where you can see the asteroid live and also see us?
If they're on the home page of Slooh.com, they should be able to see us, the panel in the lower box, the first box.
I see.
If they're not seeing it for some reason, you should refresh your page. It's the easiest thing to do. It should pop up. Or you could go to our YouTube channel, which if you click on the YouTube logo on the box, you should be able to go right to it. You should see it there. Or if you are part of G+, you could go to the Slooh Space Camera G+ page if you want to see us as well. But we try to also put it on the homepage so people can see us there too.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Pat, can you see this asteroid that I'm holding up?
Yeah, let me, yeah. In fact, you're the main view right now, so I'm showing it to you right now.
Now, this is what this asteroid would almost certainly look like. The one that we're tracking tonight, the one that we're seeing live here at Slooh. If we could see a piece of it up front, because this was an asteroid that crashed 500 years ago in Argentina. And I can tell you that asteroids are heavy for their size because they are mostly nickel and iron, almost all of them. And it would not be fun to get clobbered with one of these things, especially once you get to this size. A strange thing happens, and I'll mention that right now. Over 60,000 tons, and an object will strike Earth with its full cosmic velocity. Pat, you mentioned earlier that this object's traveling at 6 miles per second. Now, smaller than 60,000 tons, and our atmosphere slows down incoming objects, so that almost all meteorites that come and land on the ground or smash through roofs. Do you know how fast meteors are going when they reach the ground, if they hit the ground? Well, I'll tell you, only between 200 and 300 miles an hour. That's fast enough to penetrate a roof, sometimes one additional floor, and end up in somebody's bedroom, just as happened in a Chicago suburb about 15 years ago. But not any more damage than that, because air resistance slows them down, just like skydivers are slowed down to 200 miles an hour if they're diving, and 120 miles an hour if they're spreading out their arms and legs. So 200 or 300 miles an hour, that's the top speed. But if an object is as large as this one is, the one that we're tracking tonight at Slooh, air resistance will not slow it down in the slightest, and it will instead come in and hit Earth at its full cosmic speed, which in this case is, believe it or not, 30,000 miles an hour. And since impact damage, that is kinetic energy, is a function mostly of velocity. The formula is mass times v squared, velocity squared. The speed is more important than its weight, and this thing has a lot of speed. So what I'm saying is that the paranoid people have a little bit of reason to be paranoid, because if we got hit by an object of this size, it would be one of those mass extinctions like the kind that we last had 65 million years ago, and the kind that I noticed that Matt right now in Arizona is suffering from some kind of impact. I can hear it right there in Prescott Observatory. So
thunder! Can you hear that? That's thunder. I'm actually preparing to close the window on the observatory because the thunder is going off, and I can hear raindrops hitting the dome.
Oh, those poor wet mountain lions.
Oh, yeah. I don't feel sorry
this asteroid actually is 600. It's estimated to be 620 meters to 1.4 kilometers. So that's about 2,500 feet to 4,000 feet in diameter. Is that correct, Bob?
Right, which means approaching a mile. The upper limit, Pat, means it may be as much as almost a mile across. And
right.
This is serious stuff for the two reasons. One, of course, the heavier it is, the more damage it does. But two, the heavier it is, the faster it will come in if it strikes Earth. And that, by far, is the more important stat. So if something like this should hit us, this wouldn't be a local event the way the last one was. Also, you know, we're expecting Apophis. That's an asteroid on April 13th, 2029. That's going to come in so close, and I can't wait for Slooh to cover that it'll be closer to us than our Earth satellites. It's going to skim underneath the TV geostationary satellites and skim past us. And when it passes us again 6 years later, there's a small chance that it could hit us. But in that case, because of its much smaller size, and we're talking about maybe 75 or 100 meters across at most, it may destroy a city, it may produce a tidal wave, but it could not destroy major life on Earth. But this one could, the one that we're tracking right now live here at Slooh.
And if you're just joined us, you're hearing Bob Berman from Astronomy Magazine. longtime Slooh editor, and he's talking to us regarding the asteroid. I'm Patrick Palucci with Slooh, with Paul Cox, who's in the UK imaging this from our Canary Islands Observatory, which is off the coast of Africa. We're currently in the midst of a little bit of a sandstorm right now, but Paul's doing an amazing job. And what you're looking at is star trails. You're seeing a star trails, and that dot in the center right there is actually a live image of the asteroid as it's traveling at 6 miles per second. So this thing is over 3 million miles away, and we're able to track this because of Paul's expertise. Matt,
Pat, just to add on that, I'm just uploading another image which I've doubled the exposure time for. So people should be watching that image on the home page, the existing one, look at the length of the star trails, and because I've doubled the exposure time, the new image that's about to come up, the star trails will be double the length.
Okay.
Cool.
And it should also be mentioned that this object at 18th magnitude, our astronomy friends who may be with us tonight and joining us know that 18th magnitude is very, very faint. Pluto, for example, is typically 14th magnitude. So we're talking about an object, this asteroid is 60 times fainter than the planet Pluto, or the X-planet, the poor demoted X-planet Pluto. So this is not an easy object. You could not possibly see this with a backyard telescope.
So what, really quick, Paul, is the close approach, I'm just looking at the chat room, or the Slooh conversation section on the homepage.
Yeah.
Is close approach at 2330, was that at the right when we started the show, basically?
I believe it was. I would have to check on the info that I sent through to. Yes, it's 2339.
Yes, which means that at this point, it's actually flying away from us. So again, to those people who fear the government is covering it up and that we're all doomed, we're screwed, we've had it, we don't even have to worry about the Mayan calendar business on December 21st because we'll never even make it to that because this one is going to end it. Well, there it is. It's already come closest to us. It's moving away from us, and we're still alive.
So, Paul, I just saw an update on the imaging coming in. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah, that's the one where. That's the one where the star trails are a lot longer than the previous one. Before we finish the show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to track at the rate of the stars. And in that image, that final image, what we'll see is the stars as pinpoints of light, and we'll see the asteroid as a line traveling across those background stars.
Right.
Now, for the later show, Paul, will you be able to put together a sequence that might show this moving against the background stars, or not?
Yes, yes, I will. What I'll do is, when we finish the show, I'll start taking a lot of far shorter exposures, and then connect all of those together into a nice little animation, which will show it moving across the background of stars.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I want to also say that this asteroid appears, here's an interesting fact, 60,000 times fainter than the dimmest possible star you could see on the clearest night. If you lived off in the country, like where Matt is living in Prescott, Arizona, where his observatory is, the faintest stars, this one is 60,000 times fainter than that. So good job here at Slooh to be able to see this at all. This is quite good.
Hey, Matt, I had to mute you, buddy. Your rainstorm is disrupting the broadcast a little bit.
It sounds like Matt's sitting in a giant drum.
Yeah, yeah. Matt's actually in Arizona at Prescott Observatory. We're hoping he could do a live event with us tonight along with Paul, but it looks like his weather, you can hear it, is pretty bad. So we're not going to be able to do that one, I'm sure, but he can still join and talk about what's going on. Matt, I think if you want to talk, you can click the mute button off on your end. So, just do it.
If you can, this is ridiculous here. Can you guys even hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we also hear the storm.
Yeah, it's a rainstorm. It's ridiculous. So I'm gonna mute now so everyone else can talk.
Okay, good. That's great.
That's fine. We know that Matt's really the eye candy in this show, so that's fine.
He is. Now, as we look at this, I want to say here, Bob Berman here, I want to say that as we look at these live, amazing images, as we just a few minutes ago passed the closest approach to this asteroid as it's zooming past us at this moment, live astronomy here at Slooh. And as we're looking at this, and we're going to have another show later on tonight, it's being brought by people all over the world. The Slooh observatory that's imaging this is in the Canary Islands. It's being controlled by Paul Cox in Britain. Pat Palucci is directing this show from Los Angeles. Bob Berman, that's me. I'm here in the mountains of upstate New York. Matt Francis, who is running Prescott Observatory, where we hope to bring you a later show, is obviously in Arizona. So it's a global event. We appreciate everybody who's joining us here tonight too. And before the show began, I'm going to give you a little inside information. When Pat told me that the weather might be bad, I said, well, we want to show the folks something. Let's show them some great images that we just recently took through the Slooh telescopes. And you know what Pat said? And I realized afterward he was perfectly right. He said, no, Slooh is live. It's always live. It's live or nothing. And if it's cloudy, we'll have a show, we'll talk about it, and we'll tell them it's cloudy, but we're never going to bring anything but the universe as it is happening. And fortunately, almost as a reward for his ethics, the sky has cleared enough for us to bring the live asteroid passage close to us and bring it to you. So just want to mention that. Live.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're down to our last 5 minutes on the home page. We may go a little over as far as the Hangout is concerned. I do want to just mention one more time, please consider membership or making a contribution to Slooh. That funds these type of shows. We do a ton of different stuff. Anyone that's been on our site, we do a lot of the big shows, the Eclipses and the obvious ones, but we also do shows like this that are fascinating in themselves, and we also do a lot of other stuff. So please do consider membership. We actually are doing a telescope giveaway. If you sign up for a yearly or 2-year membership, you get a free Meade telescope with bag. It comes with a DVD, and it's a great product. We've had that promotion before. It's really popular, and we only bring it back out every so often. So please consider it. So, Paul, what's going on, man? Where are we at now? You've got some more images coming rolling in?
Yeah, I'm just, the last exposure is just completing, and this one is, as I say, not tracking the asteroid, so it's going to show the asteroid as a streak against the stars. You just mentioned Slooh membership there, Pat. It's right to tell people that if Slooh members actually use the telescope that I'm using now to produce these images. So yeah, all this final image is going to be quite nice. You're going to see a lovely stellar background, pinpoints of light, and the asteroid shows as a single streak going across the image. So that'll come up in about 2 minutes, I would think.
Absolutely. And then anyone, there was a guy, I'm just looking at the chat room. If you did sign up yesterday for the membership, just contact customer service and they'll take care of you regarding the promotion. So
oh, that's good.
Anyway,
and let's sum this up. Let's for the people who tuned in late, what are we seeing? We're seeing an object that may be as much as almost a mile across. At minimum, it's the size of several football fields across. It's located about 14 times farther from us than the moon, which still means 1/10 the distance to the nearest planet. Venus is the nearest planet. It's 10 times closer than the nearest planet. It's zooming past us at 6 miles a second, which happens to be a dozen times faster than the fastest high-speed rifle bullets. It was discovered a few years ago by a MIT system that's funded by the U.S. military, believe it or not, the Air Force, that is constantly looking for objects that could, well, destroy Earth, near-Earth objects. But Slooh here is a private organization, so if there is something that's really of danger, and, there's a little bit of titillation to these heavy-duty objects that we're finding now whizzing right past us. We will tell you and we will show you, and no fooling around. We'll bring it to you live, just as we're seeing this one as it's happening.
Absolutely. And one thing, too, if you look below where we're broadcasting on the homepage of Slooh, in the second box, you can see the orbit of this asteroid as it compares to the rest of the solar system. So those are always helpful to understand the orbit of it. Bob, there's questions rolling in on the chat, and I'm just trying to keep up with it on the homepage of Slooh. Is this ever going to hit Earth eventually, or what happens with these asteroids? They just keep in the same flight path always, or how does that work?
They keep in the same flight path, but they can be influenced by the tremendous gravity of Jupiter if they pass near Jupiter, as some of them do, or if they pass very near Earth, they can be influenced. For example, that one that's coming up on April 13th, 2029, is going to be so close to us that we will change its orbit. And that's why there's a little bit of concern, not much, but just a little bit, that 6 years later, same date, and by the way, it's a Friday the 13th, that there's about one chance in 250,000, in other words, less of a chance than cholesterol will kill you. I wouldn't really worry about it, that it could actually impact Earth 6 years later. And so we have to watch these things, and their orbits do change thanks to the gravitational pull of the planets.
Bob, these close approaches that these objects make, the scientists use these as a fantastic opportunity of actually honing down on their orbit, their mass, their size, their shape. I mean, that's I think, what Arecibo will be doing this evening.
That's right, but fortunately the radio telescopes can even do better than that just by observing them through radar. So the radar gives us kind of false images. We're looking at a real image now. The reason you're not seeing anything but a dot is because even if it is a mile across, how large can a mile across object look even through a good telescope like our Slooh instruments when it's 13 million miles away? You know, it's actually 3 million. I misspoke.
3 million.
It's 3 million miles away. That's the nearest planet, Venus, is 26 million. So it's a little bit closer than 1/10 the distance to the closest planet.
So the show on the homepage is sort of ended, although you could still get the images that Paul is providing in this hangout. Guys, let's wrap it up for the first show. The second show is going to be in about 3 hours. It's 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 Eastern. That's 03 UTC for our worldwide friends. It's basically 3 hours from now. We'll go and continue to track this. Paul, if he has time, will try to compile some of the images that he has been taking live of this event, and perhaps we can show some motion in one of the boxes in the future show. I'm with Bob Berman from Astronomy Magazine, who's also the author of The Sun's Heartbeat, which is now in paperback. So I'm going to put my screen up. You guys should definitely consider this book. I've read it. It's great. It tells you all about the sun, and it's fun. It's a fun reading. We have Matt Francis from Prescott. Hopefully his rainstorm ends in Arizona, because he was going to provide a feed as well for the second show. But it doesn't sound too good, considering the thunder that we're getting. We've got the great Paul Cox in the UK, who's controlling our Canary Islands Observatory right from his living room, I guess, in the UK. And,
which is what Slooh members do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm in Los Angeles in my office, actually. So it's great to be here on Sunday night. Just kidding. But anyway, guys, I appreciate the time. Any last thoughts, Bob, before we get off?
Well, I would just say this is very, very exciting. You know, Slooh always brings beautiful objects, galaxies in full color and nebulae swirling, and the ring within rings of Saturn, just gorgeous objects. This is not a gorgeous object. This is a dot against the stars. But this is a different category of excitement, of aliveness, and especially since astronomers in the last 20, 30 years have changed their thinking, and instead of Earth being an island Earth, we now really feel that we are influenced by objects like the one we're watching tonight that occasionally hit us and deliver changes to our planet, change our biosphere, change evolution. So although it doesn't have the raw color and beauty that the other objects that Slooh looks at, I have to say that I find this very, very exciting. This is it's live astronomy at its best.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, Matt. Well, go out there and do your sun dance or whatever it takes to get the rain to stop out there. All right. All right. we'll get you back on. So, guys, we'll get back on about 20, 30 minutes before. So look for your invites again, and we'll start back up for another 30 minutes or so on the second show. This show will obviously be in record mode, so you guys could, if you missed it, you can watch and hear and listen to the first show in about 5 minutes. So, for Slooh Space Camera, this is Patrick Palucci. We'll be back in about 3 hours. Thanks, guys.
My pleasure. See you then.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Are we live yet?
We are live. Hi, everyone. This is Patrick Palucci with Slooh Space Camera. We're here tonight to track Asteroid 2002 AM31 live. We're going to be doing this out of our Canary Islands Observatory for show number 1, and we're looking forward to this. These are always fun to do. This particular asteroid is actually pretty close to us, and only about 30 plus days ago, another asteroid in similar size and distance came whizzing by Earth, and that one we didn't know anything about. So that was a pretty fascinating show at the time. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at live images coming in from our observatory out in the Canary Islands, which is off the coast of Africa. Right now, we're Sun's Heartbeat because it's the one I've read recently and I really enjoyed it. With us tonight also we have Matt Francis from Prescott Observatory in Arizona. Bob's actually in New York, just by the way. I'm in Los Angeles. Matt is in Arizona, and we have Paul Cox with us as well, and he's in the UK. So we're all over the world right now. Matt's going to be attempting to cover the asteroid in a second show, although the weather out there right now is really bad. So we're not sure we're going to be able to get his feed on the second show, but we should have one at least coming out of Canary Islands. And Paul right now is working on tracking the asteroid as we speak. Paul, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How are things looking for us?
Yep, it's cleared again. So we just I was testing before the show.
We're experiencing a phenomenon called La Calima, and that is basically the Sahara Desert is blowing wind offshore towards the island, the Canary Islands, and that kicks up a lot of fine mist and dust. Typically, we keep the facilities closed during such things when this stuff happens, but tonight we're going to open up one of them, what we call our T2 telescope, to track the asteroid. So with us tonight, I have a longtime Slooh editor, astronomy magazine columnist, and writer of the book The Sun's Heartbeat, which is actually in paperback, I guess now, Bob. Is that right?
It is. Just came out this week in paperback.
Excellent. Well, Bob's been with us now 5+ years, and if everyone hasn't read his books, you should definitely do it. I always promote this afternoon. We're going to be doing that one. So, Bob, while we're getting here waiting for the countdown, you could see probably in the Hangout what we're doing right now. Maybe you could talk, you know, when we started talking about these asteroids, and we did this show about 30+ days ago, we know there's about 9,000+ of these things whizzing around space. What is it? Where are these things coming from? I always wondered where are these asteroids coming from?
Well, they live here, just like here. I'm no secret. I'm here in the mountains in upstate New York, and we're surrounded by bears and deer, and they do damage. And you know, it's their home. We can't blame them. This is where they live, and it's the same thing with the asteroids. They clobber us from time to time. They come in, but this is their home. They mostly live between Mars and Jupiter. But there are some renegade astronauts.
Clouded over a little bit, but yeah, back online and should start images coming through any minute now.
I see one right now. There was one right there on the screen.
Yep,
yeah,
this looks good. One of the first test ones I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, we're showing it on the Hangout right now. For those of you who are on the Slooh.com homepage, you'll be able to snap your own pics by just clicking the Pin It button, assuming you have a Pinterest account, of course. But it's an easy way for you to grab images from our live shows. And we do these live shows frequently. In fact, we've got more already counting down now. So you can come at our homepage at any time and see the latest event that's counting down. We obviously have a second asteroid show tonight, and then we have other shows upcoming in the week. We do have I think it's the Mars Saturn Spike a Star event Tuesday.